What do you mean a guest got locked out of their room for 3 hours and no one answered the front desk phone? Elijah Norell stared at the email on his laptop, sitting in his office overlooking downtown Chicago. It was the third customer complaint this week from the same location, one of the 19 hotels he'd acquired over the past 7 years. He hadn't built the chain from scratch, but he'd bought it from a retiring couple who ran it like a family business. Since then, he'd doubled its size. And maybe, he admitted, lost some of the connection to the day-to-day operations. He ran his hand through his short brown hair, leaned back and blew out a breath. His assistant had flagged the message. A guest at the Midtown location claimed the front desk phone rang endlessly. No staff was present in the lobby, and when someone finally showed up, they didn't know how to reset the keycard system. Elijah's hotel chain was known for its boutique look, affordable rates, and personal service. If that last part was slipping, it was on him. He'd never personally been to the Midtown Hotel. It was the fourth one he'd acquired, tucked between two larger chains on a busy street. The manager, Carla, had been with the hotel since before he bought it. According to the reports, she always hit her targets, but numbers only told part of the story. "I'm going," Elijah said out loud. No assistants, no heads up, just him. He had a solid disguise plan. Beard, glasses, dyed hair, and a fake name, Illy North. He'd done it once before at a different location. Most of the hotel managers had never met him face to face. Corporate had grown enough that the CEO didn't do the orientation tours anymore. He'd send Illy North in as a trainee for front desk work. A new hire. Someone Carla wouldn't question too much, especially if he was quiet. He arrived the next morning with a duffel bag and a slightly anxious smile. The Midtown Hotel was 3 floors, brick exterior, with a small but polished lobby. He waited 10 minutes at the front desk before anyone noticed him. A young woman with tired eyes and a frizzy ponytail finally emerged from the back office, chewing gum and barely glancing at him. "You the new guy?" "Yeah, Illy, I was told to start training today," she shrugged. "Cool, I'm Nina. Carla's not here yet, you can just stand there, I guess." He nodded and set his bag down, scanning the area. One guest walked by, glanced at the empty desk, and muttered something under their breath. An hour later, Carla showed up, mid-30s, sharp suit, phone glued to her ear. She barely looked at him. "You the trainee?" "Yeah." "Good, Nina, show him how to check people in. I've got 3 interviews in the back." "3?" Nina asked. "We're short." "Again, just do it." Carla vanished into the office. Nina rolled her eyes. "Let me guess," Elijah asked gently. "Staff keeps quitting?" "Yup." "And no one who applies actually stays. Pays crap, hours or worse, and Carla micromanages like crazy." Elijah blinked. "That bad?" Nina gave a bitter laugh. "I'm on day 11 without a break. You get used to it." He didn't respond. He just watched. Over the next 5 hours, he learned more about the operation than he had from any report. Nina was clearly smart, juggling check-ins, answering phones, restocking the snack rack. But she was alone most of the time. Other staff came and went in short bursts. A housekeeping shift change meant Elijah met a woman named Letty who looked 65 and moved like she was 80. She gave him a polite nod and kept pushing her cart. At lunch, Elijah offered to cover the desk so Nina could eat. She scoffed. "Lunch." "Carla said if I take more than 10 minutes again, I'll lose hours next week." He frowned. "That legal?" "Nope, but she says stuff like that all the time. We're all scared to say anything." At 4 o'clock, a fire alarm went off. The shrill beep echoed through the lobby. Elijah froze. So did Nina. "You good?" he asked. She looked pale. I don't know what to do. Carla never trained us on this." "You've never had a fire drill?" "No, I mean, the alarm goes off sometimes, but we wait and see if it's a glitch." "Carla says not to panic guests. You don't evacuate?" "No one's told me how." Elijah's stomach turned. He stepped out from behind the desk and started ushering guests out the front door. Some followed. Others stood around confused. There was no plan, no meeting point. No one from management showed their face. After 10 minutes, the alarm stopped. No fire department came. Carla finally emerged from the office. False alarm, she said flatly, brushing her skirt. System glitch. Everyone back inside. Elijah stepped forward. Shouldn't we have evacuated? Carla raised an eyebrow. You're a trainee. You don't question how I run things. He bit his tongue. Nina looked down at her shoes. That night he stayed in one of the rooms. The hallway smelled faintly of mildew. The windows didn't lock properly. He made a list. He barely slept. By morning he'd made up his mind. This wasn't just about a missed phone call anymore. It was about safety, about trust, about people being left to figure things out on their own, and it was going to change. By the second morning, Elijah had already memorized the rhythm of the front desk. Phones rang every few minutes, calls about late checkouts, missing towels, or noisy neighbors. Most went unanswered unless Nina picked up, and even then, she juggled them while checking in guests, answering questions and printing receipts. Carla didn't show up until nearly 11. She walked in briskly, holding an iced coffee, and barely nodded at Elijah. He was behind the desk alone. Nina had gone to help restock the vending machine, which had broken again. Carla didn't ask where she was. She tapped a few keys on the lobby computer, sighed loudly, then disappeared into her office. At noon, a man in a business suit approached the desk. I've called down 3 times this morning, he said, voice clipped. The sink in my room is leaking. There's water all over the floor. Elijah offered a calm nod. I'm really sorry to hear that. Let me call maintenance for you. It's been 6 hours, the man said. I reported it before breakfast. Elijah picked up the internal phone and dialed the extension he'd been told was for maintenance. No answer. He tried the back office. Carla answered. There's a leak in room 215. Guest says it's been reported already. Tell him to put a towel down. Omar's not in until later, he said, the floor's soaked. Carla's tone didn't shift. Then put down more towels. We're not sending housekeeping up for every little issue. She hung up. Elijah looked up at the man. I'm sorry again. I'll personally bring some towels up, and I'll make sure someone checks it when maintenance arrives. The man looked unimpressed but nodded and walked off. Elijah crossed the lobby and entered the linen room. It was cramped, barely lit, and several towel bins were empty. He found a few clean ones near the bottom and headed toward the elevators. As he stepped inside, Letty entered from the side hallway with her cart, wheezing slightly. You okay? He asked, holding the elevator door. She gave a small wave. Just stairs, no lift in the service wing. All the way up and down, he frowned. You're going to the 3rd floor, twice already today. They didn't fix the laundry chute yet. He stepped inside with her, letting the silence stretch until she added, used to be 2 of us. Now it's just me on mornings. When they reached the 2nd floor, Elijah dropped the towels off and returned to the front desk. Nina had just come back and was wiping her forehead with her sleeve. Axe off in the vending room, she muttered. Feels like a sauna in there. Anyone looking into that? She gave a short shake of her head and pulled up the reservation log. At 2, Carla came out of her office and gestured for Elijah to follow her. They stepped into the back hallway, near the supply closet. You've been asking a lot of questions, she said flatly, folding her arms. I just want to learn how things work here. That's not your job, your front desk. You don't need to get involved in maintenance, housekeeping, or guest complaints outside your shift. He kept his tone even. If I see something going wrong, I should ignore it. If you want to keep your hours, yes. We don't need more people trying to play hero. Just do your job. She turned and walked away. Later that afternoon, Elijah was restocking brochures in the lobby when he heard raised voices behind the front desk. He stepped closer. A guest, a woman in her 60s, was speaking firmly to Nina. I asked for a ground floor room when I booked. I can't climb stairs easily. I'm sorry, Nina said, trying to stay calm, but the only available rooms are on the 2nd floor. The elevator is working. I don't use elevators. I have anxiety in enclosed spaces. I called ahead about this. I understand, but Carla stepped out of the office, cutting Nina off. What's the issue? The woman explained again. Carla didn't wait for her to finish. Ma'am, we're fully booked. If we had a ground floor room, we'd give it to you, but we don't. "You're welcome to check out and find another hotel." The guest stared at her, stunned. "I'm not asking for a favor. I made a request in advance and we can't meet it. That's not our fault if you don't like elevators." Elijah stepped forward. "I think there's a way we can work this out. I'll check if anyone in a ground floor room is checking out early. Maybe we can switch things around." Carla glared at him. "You're not in charge of room assignments. I'm just trying to help." "I don't need help from someone who's been here 2 days." The guest walked away, shaking her head. Elijah turned to Nina once Carla walked off. "She always talked to guests like that?" Nina didn't answer, but the look on her face did. By 5, the tension had built to a breaking point. A family of 4 checked in, only to be told their room wasn't ready. The cleaning schedule had fallen behind. The kids were cranky. The parents were frustrated. Nina apologized, offered them snacks, and promised to call the moment the room was done. Elijah followed up by checking with Letty, who was still moving between rooms with her cart. "She's doing 2 floors by herself," he told Nina when he came back. "No help at all." Nina didn't look surprised. "We had 2 new hires this month. One quit after 3 days, the other never showed." That night, Elijah sat in the break room, watching the security feed on the wall. Carla was outside, smoking and talking on her phone. Her shift was technically over, but she hadn't left the building. Nina walked in and dropped into a chair across from him. "You look like you've been hit by a truck," she said. "Feels like it." She leaned forward, voice lower. "You're not just a trainee, are you?" He hesitated. "I don't know what you mean." "You ask too many questions. You actually care when something goes wrong. That doesn't fit around here." He studied her for a moment. "What would you do if you were in charge?" Her answer came immediately. "Hire more people, fix the broken systems, and fire Carla." He didn't react. "She's been like this for years," Nina said. "No one reports her because they're afraid of losing hours, but people quit because of her, guests complain because of her. And the rest of us just try to survive." He nodded slowly. "Thanks for telling me." The next morning, Carla's behavior escalated. A young man named Tarek came in to start his first shift. He was assigned to help Letty with laundry, but within 20 minutes, Carla pulled him aside and accused him of being late, even though the time clock said otherwise. "I don't care what it says," she said. "You didn't look ready to work." "That's the same as being late." When he tried to explain, she cut him off. "Don't argue, I have eyes. If you've got an attitude problem, you can leave now." Elijah watched the exchange from the hallway. He stepped forward. He was on time. "I saw him come in." Carla stared at him, lips tight. "This is none of your business. You're threatening to fire someone on their first shift for how they look." She turned sharply. "You're done. Get your bag. You're not a good fit here." He didn't move. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his ID. Elijah Norell, founder and CEO of Norell Hospitality Group. The hallway fell silent. Carla blinked. "What?" "I've been working undercover since Monday. I've seen enough." She opened her mouth, but he held up a hand. "You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately." She turned red. "You can't be serious." He didn't raise his voice. "You've ignored guest safety procedures, mistreated employees, and violated multiple company policies. You've created a hostile work environment. You're done." She stormed out, slamming the staff door behind her. Elijah turned to Tarek. "You're not in trouble. We'll get you reassigned to someone who actually wants to train you." Tarek nodded, still stunned. Elijah looked to Nina, who had just walked out of the break room. "I need your help. We've got a lot of work to do." By the time Carla's office door slammed shut behind her, the lobby had fallen into a stunned silence. Elijah stood still, letting the weight of what had just happened settle. He turned to Nina, who was still behind the front desk, her hands frozen over the keyboard. "Can you hold down the desk for the next hour?" he asked. She gave a slow nod, still processing. He left quietly, heading into the now empty manager's office. The blinds were half closed, the desk cluttered with paperwork, a broken headset, and a half-empty cup of coffee. He sat down and opened the desktop computer. The login was still active. He started reviewing shift logs, time card punches, maintenance requests, everything Carla had been ignoring or mishandling. There were dozens of unapproved schedule changes, and several instances where hours had been cut midweek with no explanation. The maintenance ticket system hadn't been updated in over 6 weeks. Most requests were marked pending or simply left blank. He printed everything. An hour later, Elijah returned to the lobby and called Nina over. "Can you bring Letty and Tarek to the office? I want to speak with them privately, one at a time." She nodded immediately and disappeared down the hallway. Letty came in first, still in her uniform, with her cleaning gloves looped through her apron strap. She sat down across from him timidly, hands folded in her lap. "Do you know who I am now?" he asked gently. She gave a hesitant nod. "I'm not here to make things harder," he said. "But I need to understand what it's really been like for people here." Letty's voice was soft but steady. "I've worked in hotels since the early '80s. This place used to be one of the good ones, but it's been hard lately. Too many rooms, not enough help. When I brought it up, Carla said I could take fewer shifts if I was tired. How often were you alone on your floor?" "Most days. Sometimes I'd get someone for 2 hours, but then they'd get pulled to do laundry or cover the front." "Do you ever get breaks?" "I take 5 minutes when I can." "Usually not on the clock." He tapped the desk lightly with his pen. "I'm going to reassign you to a smaller section starting tomorrow, and we're hiring 2 part-time housekeepers to help cover mornings. You shouldn't be doing 3 floors on your own." Letty blinked, then nodded once tightly. She stood to leave, and Elijah gently stopped her. "You've kept this place running under impossible conditions. That's not going unnoticed anymore." She gave him a faint smile and left the office. Next, Tarek stepped in, tugging at the hem of his polo shirt, clearly still on edge. "I know I'm new," he said quickly, "but I wasn't trying to cause problems." "I know," Elijah said. "You handled yourself well. You're not in trouble." Tarek sat down slowly, eyes still wary. "I want to know what she said to you before I stepped in." Tarek hesitated. "She told me I looked lazy. That I didn't seem motivated. All I'd done was clock in and go to the laundry room like I was told." Elijah leaned back, expression unreadable. "She ever speak that way to anyone else?" "I've only been here a day," Tarek said, "but I heard her snap at another guy earlier. Said he looked like he wasn't front desk material because of his tattoos." He just nodded and walked off. "Who was that?" "His name's Theo. He said he was hired for the night shift but hadn't been given a schedule yet." Elijah stood. "Thanks, you're going to report to Marcy from now on. She's coming in tomorrow from our Northside location to help stabilize things here." Tarek gave a small nod, then left. Elijah called Nina in last. She stepped into the office, glanced around, then sat down with a sigh. "I'm guessing you've got questions," she said. "Only one," he replied. "Why did you stay?" She looked down at her hands for a moment. "I needed the job. My sister's in school and I help cover her rent. I figured if I just kept my head down, things would even out eventually." "But they didn't." "No, they got worse. Carla had a way of making you feel like you were lucky just to be working." Elijah studied her for a moment. "You know how this place runs better than anyone I've met here. I want you to take over scheduling and daily operations, at least until we place a new general manager." Her head snapped up. "Wait me? Only temporarily. You've earned the chance to lead, but I'm not giving it to you. You'll have to prove you can handle it." She exhaled slowly. "All right, I'll do it. Starting now, I want every employee scheduled for a proper break. No more skipped meals. If someone doesn't show, we adjust evenly. No more dumping it all on one person." She nodded, already slipping into a more focused posture. "I'll get the new rotation printed by tonight. I'll be back in 2 days. In the meantime, I'm bringing in someone from HR to sit with the team. They'll hear every concern, no filters, no pressure." She stood. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. There's a lot to fix." That evening, Elijah walked the property with a clipboard in hand. He checked door locks, tested the alarm system, and reviewed the emergency procedure binder at the front desk. It hadn't been updated since 2019, he left a note. "Full fire drill training required by end of week. Mandatory participation. Signed, E.N." The next morning, a corporate HR representative arrived, a quiet, observant woman named Rena who sat up in the break room. One by one, employees spoke with her privately. Elijah kept his distance, but by the end of the day, she handed him a short summary. "There's a consistent pattern," she said. Carla used intimidation and withheld hours as punishment. Several younger staff said they were told not to take things personally when she criticized their appearance. Anyone else complicit? No, just her. Everyone else described a culture of silence, not collaboration. He nodded. "We'll make it right." That afternoon, he brought the team together in the lobby. Letty leaned on her cart. Tarek stood near the elevator. Nina stood off to the side, arms crossed but watching closely. "I'm not going to stand here and tell you I understand what it's been like," Elijah began. "I've only seen a piece of it, but that was enough." He met each of their eyes. "This is your workplace. It should be safe, fair, and functional. Starting this week, we're hiring 3 additional support staff. Housekeeping will be split into smaller zones. Maintenance is being reassigned from another location temporarily. And yes, we're doing full safety drills." A few people exchanged glances. "I'll be back here regularly." "No more long gaps. If something's broken in the system, I want to know about it firsthand." There was a pause, then Letty spoke. "What about Carla? She's not coming back, ever." No one clapped, no one cheered. But the silence felt different, less tense, more solid. After the meeting ended, Elijah stayed late, shadowing the night shift. Theo finally showed up and introduced himself. He was quiet, with sleeves pulled down, but spoke with clarity when asked questions. Elijah watched him handle 2 guests with grace and precision. "You've got a good touch," Elijah said at one point. Theo shrugged. "Wasn't sure I'd last after the way she looked at me on the first day. You'll get a full schedule starting next week. We're making room for people who show respect to guests and each other." Theo nodded, then returned to helping a family check in. At 2 in the morning, Elijah sat in the dim break room, sipping a cup of vending machine coffee and watching the lobby feed. The hotel was quiet, the front desk manned, the hallways calm. There was still much to do, but something had shifted. The silence wasn't neglect anymore, it was order. And for the first time in a while, Elijah didn't feel like a stranger in his own company. By the following week, the Midtown hotel was running under a new rhythm. It wasn't perfect, and no one expected it to be. But slowly, there was a sense that the pressure valve had been turned just enough for people to breathe again. Elijah returned on Thursday evening, 3 days after his last visit. He walked in through the side entrance, no disguise this time. The lobby was still modest, still slightly worn at the edges, but what caught his attention first was the desk. Nina was there, speaking calmly with a guest, her posture relaxed but alert. A second employee, a tall young man with short dreadlocks and a pressed uniform, stood beside her. They each had a task and neither looked overwhelmed. As the guest walked away with a room key in hand, Elijah approached. Nina caught sight of him and gave a small nod. "You're right on time." "Place looks steadier," he said. She tapped a clipboard behind the desk. "We're still short one overnight, but we've staggered the shifts so no one's running solo. Theo's been handling evenings and Tarek's picking things up fast." Elijah turned to the young man. "And you are?" "Jordan. I started Monday. Nina's been training me." He extended a hand. Elijah shook it firmly. "You settling in all right?" "Yeah, it's busy, but the team's tight. There's a rhythm to it now." Elijah glanced around. "Where's Letty?" "Break room." Maintenance finally cleared the chute clog, so she's not running bags by hand anymore. He gave a nod, then leaned slightly over the desk. "Any recent issues?" Nina hesitated. "One, yesterday afternoon. A guest got aggressive with Theo. Started making comments about his appearance. Racial, not directly, but close enough. We stepped in fast. Guest was asked to leave. Did Theo file anything?" "He didn't want to, said he's dealt with worse, but I logged it anyway." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Keep those logs. If something escalates, I want it on record." Nina nodded. "Understood." He stepped into the hallway and headed to the break room. Letty was sitting at the small round table, sipping from a thermos and flipping through a paperback novel. She looked up and gave a nod. Elijah. Taking a real break this time, 15 minutes, I set a timer. Nina made sure I didn't skip it. He pulled out a chair. How's the workload? Manageable. 2 new part-timers started yesterday. I've got one of them on towels and the other doing trash runs. I just do rooms now. Like it used to be. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. Her posture said enough. He stood after a few minutes. I'll be conducting a walkthrough upstairs. Anything I should keep an eye out for? Room 207's window still sticks. Put in the request again this morning. I'll check it myself. Upstairs, he moved room by room, checking for the small details that often got missed. A leaky faucet in 219. A hallway panel with a loose cover. He made notes, then headed back down. At the front desk, Jordan was helping a guest print a boarding pass. Nina was reviewing the handover log. Elijah pulled her aside discreetly. I need to ask something I've been holding off on. Okay. What made you stay here even when it was at its worst? She paused. I thought I could outlast it. Carla, the chaos. I didn't want to let one bad manager drive me out. You still want the interim lead role, I do, but only if I can make things stick, not just patch problems. He nodded once. We've started reviewing applicants for permanent GM. Several are from outside, but I want to be fair. You'll be interviewed formally next week. Good, I want a fair shot. He leaned in slightly. And if you get it, you'll be expected to train your replacement. This place can't revolve around one person anymore. I wouldn't have it any other way. Later that night, he sat in the manager's office with the door slightly ajar. A knock came about an hour in. Tarek stepped in, shifting slightly on his feet. Got a minute, of course. I've been thinking, Tarek said. I want to cross-train for night audit, not full-time, just backup. Elijah raised an eyebrow. That's not easy work, you're sure? I've been watching Theo, he's sharp. I want to learn from him while I've got the chance. Elijah gestured to the chair. Sit. Tarek did. You weren't sure you'd last here a week ago. I wasn't. But when you sat down with me after Carla fired herself, it changed things. You didn't make it a speech. You just listened. That's not going to be rare anymore, Elijah said. We're restructuring the entire training protocol. I want every new hire to know who they report to, what their growth options are, and who's got their back if something goes wrong. Tarek leaned forward. That's the kind of place I want to work in, Elijah nodded. Then you'll help build it. The next morning, Elijah returned to the office early. Rena from HR arrived just after 7, carrying 2 binders and a laptop bag. She sat up quietly in the conference room. Staff interviews are complete, she said. I've compiled the transcripts. Anything stand out? 2 things. 1, nearly every employee said they'd considered quitting in the last 3 months. 2, all of them said they felt differently now. Because Carla's gone, because they know someone's willing to listen, he flipped through the binder. Any remaining concerns? Just 1. Several employees mentioned an older maintenance contractor, Arnold, mid-60s, part-time. They said he's been skipping scheduled checks, said he refuses to do work above the 2nd floor. Why? They weren't sure, but it's creating a gap in coverage. Elijah stood. I'll speak to him directly. Arnold arrived shortly after 9. Elijah caught him outside near the loading dock, sitting on an overturned crate sipping coffee from a thermos. Arnold, right? That's me. You've been doing maintenance here a while, 6 years. Started under the old owners. I've gotten a few reports that you've been avoiding certain floors. Arnold leaned back. Not avoiding, just don't like lugging tools up 3 flights when the elevators don't always work right. That's not in the log, he shrugged. Didn't want to make a fuss. Figured someone else could get it. Elijah crossed his arms. That's not how this works. I've earned some slack. You've earned respect, but respect doesn't mean cutting corners. Arnold looked off toward the street. You going to let me go? If I have to, yes. But I'd rather you take the week off. Think about whether you're up for the job as it's written, not as it used to be. Arnold nodded once slowly. Fair enough. He gathered his things and left without complaint. Inside, Elijah met with Nina again, this time in the now organized office. He handed her a slim folder. "What's this?" she asked. "Final candidate list for GM, you're one of them. Interviews start Monday." She flipped it open. "You're not making this easy on me. I'm not supposed to." She closed it and set it aside. "Whatever happens, this place is stronger now," he nodded. "But it can't depend on one leader. That's what got us here." She tilted her head. "You mean Carla?" "No, I mean me." Outside, traffic moved steadily past the front doors. The city was already awake, already pressing forward. Inside the lobby, the team was working efficient, alert, and no longer afraid to speak up. Elijah stood by the window for a moment longer before heading out. He didn't need to be behind the desk anymore, but he'd never stop watching.